Before the Snaps game of the week is Ohio State at Michigan for week 14. So going into this game, what's the biggest X factor each team needs to win?
I think on the Michigan side, Michelle, it's got to be turnovers. Michigan was one of the best teams in the nation through its first 7 games or so in protecting the ball. Then their first 2 games in November, they had 7 turnovers in the span of 5 quarters. That's not going to cut it against the Buckeyes this week. Last season when they played, the turnover battle was tied 2-2, but it was a key Michigan interception that set up their only touchdown of the game in a goal-to-go situation, and that really proved to be all the offense they needed. So Michigan's got to protect the ball if they want to have a shot in this one.
I think Ohio State needs to make this a game in which its passing game can shine, because that was such a strange part of last year's game. Is the Buckeyes, for whatever reason, were determined to beat Michigan at the line of scrimmage between the trenches, and they need to make it a game where it's played out on the outside of the hash marks, rely on its perimeter playmakers. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Innis, Mac Flair. They have so many weapons and a big supporting cast for Julian Sayin to lean on. And if it's a game where it's dictated by that style and they're throwing the ball over the field and the passing chart for Julian Sayin is hitting all different corners of the football field, that's a good sign for the Buckeyes. And if it's played condensed in a smaller area, Michigan has had the upper hand in the rivalry when it's played like that.
Last year, Ohio State lost to Michigan for the 4th straight time. What do Ryan Day and the Buckeyes have to do to prevent another loss to Michigan?
They need to keep riding their playmakers that have gotten to this point, Julian Sayin, and the strength of the passing game. But I think their defense has also been really good this year in terms of what Matt Patricia has been able to install. They've been very multiple in their fronts. That traditionally Ohio State's been a 4-down team, but they've used a lot more 5-man fronts this year, or even some 3-man fronts. And I think Matt Patricia's NFL background and ability to throw different stuff and disguise packages is going to be a challenge for freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood. So if their defense as well can complement the offense and really, I think, make it a challenge for a young quarterback, that's going to help Ohio State get its first win over Michigan since 19.
Yeah, in my mind, Ohio State just can't get punked. Michigan has had the Buckeyes in a mental pretzel for going on half a decade now, as Joey was just alluding to, with physicality and domination at the line of scrimmage, really nullifying that talent disparity that Ohio State has seemed to have on the outside. Ohio State hasn't really been tested that much in league play this year. I mean, they've won almost every game by 18 plus. And so if Michigan is able to land a punch, Ohio State has to show that it is going to be able to get off the mat.
Joey, what could the fallout look like if Ryan Day loses to Michigan again?
Not very pleasant. If Ohio State loses to Michigan this year, it would be their 5th straight loss in the rivalry. That has not happened since 1927. There have been some longer win-less streaks, counting some ties. But keep in mind, John Cooper, who was 2-10-1 against Michigan, never lost 5 in a row. It just has not happened in modern college football for Ohio State to lose to Michigan. It will just continue to test what is college football culture like in Columbus now, because look, last year, Ohio State was able to withstand a loss to Michigan and go on to win a national championship. That same script would be possible this year, and they may even still have a first round bye. So it sort of creates this push and pull with the Ohio State fans. Can you stomach losing to Michigan if you win a national championship? That would ultimately be what Buckeye Nation would be faced with if 5th straight loss were to happen.
Julian Sayin or Bryce Underwood, which quarterback do you trust more in a rivalry matchup like this one?
How could it not be Julian Sayin, given their bodies of work? He has fewer interceptions, 3 times as many passing touchdowns, and he's completing 4 out of every 5 throws. It helps the playmakers like Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Max Clare, who's Joey has mentioned. And Bryce Underwood, as I mentioned earlier, has had turnover issues this month. He had 2 picks in the game against Northwestern. He also had a fumble on a handoff. He had 2 red zone turnovers against Purdue, and those defenses are not exactly the Buckeyes. So just overall, it feels like Sayin is the more trustworthy quarterback in this one.
I agree. It's Julian Sayin. this is a quarterback who's been nearly flawless. This year, he's on pace to have the most efficient season ever for an FBS quarterback. It's so hard not to lean on him in a game like this. The Ohio State coaches and players talk about his composure and his poise, even though he's the first time starter. That I think ultimately it's hard not to ride with him.
Ohio State versus Michigan. Who wins and why?
It would be so tempting to pick against Ohio State in this game and go with Michigan just from a prove it standpoint. Ohio State has not beaten the Wolverines since Ryan Day's first year in 2019. It's been a mental block for them in recent years, but on paper, and maybe this game is not played on paper as recent years have illustrated, but nonetheless, the Buckeyes have been so dominant this season. It's hard to find a weakness from both sides of the ball. Maybe it's their running game at times or some vexing red zone issues. But overall, Ohio State looks like a complete team, and I think they do break the streak this year.
I swore after what I saw last year, I would not pick Ohio State in this game until, like George, until they prove it, until they prove that they can do it. But I can't even take my own advice. The Wolverines have been playing with fire in so many games this year. They beat Purdue by 5. They needed a walk-off field goal over Northwestern. They only beat Wisconsin by 2 scores, and then Wisconsin didn't score for like 3 weeks in a row. It hasn't looked pretty in a lot of games. Now, that's not to say Michigan can't win this game. They can, but I feel 5 years of frustration and pent-up aggression coming from the Columbus side is going to be enough. I think Ohio State maybe takes this one about 27-16.
It's college football week 14, and we've got some rapid fire straight up picks starting with Texas A&M at Texas. Austin is a tough place to play, but Marcel Reed and the Aggies have looked so much more put together this season. I'm going with Texas A&M.
Yeah, football usually comes down to who's better in the trenches, and ultimately, I've been saying it all year, Texas's offensive line doesn't have it. Against this Texas A&M defensive line with Cassius Howell, I think it's going to be a really long day for Arch Manning, and I think the Aggies get the win.
Arizona at Arizona State. This is looking like a close game, but I'm going with the Wildcats to win a slight upset here.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, they've really improved this year. Noah Fafita having a great season, and Arizona State really banged up. Obviously, no Sam Levitt, no Jordan Tyson for a lot of the year, but they still keep finding ways to win games, and I kind of think Kenny Dillingham will just find a way to get the job done here in a rivalry game, but I agree. I think it's going to be close.
Oregon at Washington. Both teams have been a little inconsistent, but at different levels this season. So I think the Ducks are looking good. I say they pull this one out.
Yeah, hard to trust Oregon entirely, but they did just run for almost 200 yards on USC. I kind of think they'll be able to do something pretty similar here against a good but not great Washington team. So I think the Ducks get the job done.
Speaking of trust issues, Miami at Pitt. This feels like a giant trap game for Miami, but there's a lot of that happening in the ACC right now. But I still think I've got to go with the Hurricanes on this one.
I called the Pitt win last week, and I figured they were going to win one of these last two. I don't think they have it here, though. I think Mason Heinschel is going to struggle against this Miami defensive front. I think it's going to make things difficult. Miami's just a bit better than this Pitt team is.
Vanderbilt at Tennessee. Vanderbilt has 2 losses on the road. Tennessee has 2 of 3 losses at home. So I think I'm taking the Commodores and a nail-biter to the end on this one.
Yeah, everything to play for here for Vandy. Playoff spot on the line. I just worry about their defense here. I think Tennessee will be able to score some points here. I see this one being a high-scoring game. I kind of think Tennessee pulls it out at home, though, unfortunately for the Commodores fans.
Ohio State at Michigan. This one is a trap game for us just based on recent history and Ohio State's collapses in this game, but I've still got to go with the Buckeyes.
Yeah, frankly, I don't really see any reason Ohio State shouldn't be totally fine here. I mean, I think their defense is phenomenal, and I think Michigan might struggle to score at all in this game. So I think Ohio State wins, and if they don't, I don't even know what to say anymore about this program.